They laughed at her. Not with her, not because of joy, but at her. It was the kind of laughter that doesn't fade, the kind that digs its claws into your chest and stays there long after the sound is gone. Sarah sat at the grand dinner table of her new husband's family, her eyes lowered, her hands shaking slightly beneath the embroidered tablecloth. She could hear every word, every whisper. Look at her dress, so plain, so ordinary. Did she even hire a designer? It looks like something from a street market. She should feel lucky we even let her in this family. The chandelier sparkled above them all, golden light bouncing off crystal glasses. To anyone walking in, it looked like a perfect family celebration. But to Sarah, it was a battlefield. Her husband, Adil, sat beside her. He was smiling politely, pouring water into his glass, pretending not to notice, pretending not to hear his family's laughter slicing through her heart. Her sister-in-law leaned forward with a mocking grin. "So, Sarah," she asked loudly enough for everyone to hear, "how does it feel to sit at such a grand table? Must be your first time, right?" The room erupted. The laughter was no longer whispers. It was loud, unkind, crushing. Sarah forced her lips into a smile, a small, trembling smile. She said nothing, because what could she say? If she defended herself, they would laugh harder. If she cried, they would feel victorious. So she stayed silent. But in her heart, a voice whispered, steady and cold, "One day, they will regret every word, every single word." That night, Sarah didn't break. She didn't cry in front of them. She carried her pain like armor, silent and heavy. And that silence would become her greatest weapon. Because what they didn't know was that the poor bride they mocked, the girl they dismissed as unworthy, carried within her a storm powerful enough to tear down their empire. Her name was Sarah. To her new family, she was nothing more than a girl from a lower background, a simple bride, someone to look down upon. But her truth, it was far from what they imagined. Sarah grew up in a modest home, a small house with peeling paint, creaking wooden doors, and a kitchen that always smelled of her mother's cooking. Her father was a school teacher, a man who believed that knowledge was the greatest gift you could ever give a child. Her mother was a tailor, patient, hardworking, stitching dreams into every piece of fabric she touched. They didn't have riches. They didn't own businesses. But what they did give Sarah was far more powerful. Dignity, discipline, and the belief that education could open any door. Sarah studied late into the night, her lamp burning long after her neighborhood was dark. Books became her closest friends, and ambition her silent companion. By the time she reached university, she wasn't just a student. She was a force. Professors admired her brilliance. Classmates sought her advice. International investors who visited her campus for lectures remembered her sharp mind and thoughtful questions. But Sarah never boasted about it. She was humble, quiet. She carried her achievements like secrets, never needing to prove herself. And then she met Adil. He wasn't extraordinary to her. He was simply kind. Or at least she thought he was. He was polite, charming in his own way. He came from wealth, yes, but Sarah didn't love him for that. She loved him because she believed he saw her heart. What she didn't know then was that Adil's family didn't see her heart at all. To them, she was the poor bride, a charity case, someone beneath their level. They measured worth in gold jewelry, luxury cars, and empire shares. And Sarah? She was none of those things, at least not in their eyes. What they didn't realize was that the girl they looked down upon, the girl they thought had nothing, actually had Ev. She had knowledge. She had patience. She had global connections she had built silently over the years. But she didn't reveal that. Not yet. She let them laugh. She let them underestimate her. because the higher they placed themselves, the harder their fall would be. The mockery didn't stop at the wedding. It grew. It spread. It became routine. At every family gathering, Sarah was the target. When she spoke, they interrupted. When she dressed, they mocked her clothes. When she shared an opinion, they waved it off as nonsense. "Don't forget where you came from," her brother-in-law once smirked at her across the table. "You should be grateful we even accepted you," an uncle sneered. And the words cut. They cut deep. But what cut even deeper was Adil's silence. He never defended her. He never stopped them. He just sat quietly, letting the cruelty wash over her, pretending it wasn't happening. At first, Sarah tried to excuse it. She told herself, maybe he's caught between me and his family. Maybe he's trying to keep the peace. But with every insult, with every sneer, with every laugh at her expense, that excuse grew weaker. Sarah's heart ached. She had walked into this marriage with dreams of love and respect. Instead, she found herself standing alone in a house full of enemies. Yet still, she didn't break. She didn't shout. She didn't beg. Because inside her, something was changing. Every insult was fuel. Every sneer was fire. Every laugh was a hammer, shaping the steel inside her. They thought they were breaking her, but in reality, they were forging her into someone unstoppable. The final insult came on their wedding anniversary dinner. Sarah had cooked a beautiful meal herself, wanting to honor tradition and family. She stood nervously as the dishes were placed before her in-laws. But instead of appreciation, laughter erupted. "This tastes cheap. Did you bring village food to our table? You will never be one of us." Sarah stood frozen, her pride crushed. For the first time, a tear slid down her cheek. That night, alone in her room, she whispered to herself, "Enough. This ends now." Sarah's secret was simple. She wasn't just educated, she was connected. During her university years, she had worked with powerful investors, advising on projects quietly under different names. Her knowledge of finance, her skill in strategy, her silent reputation in global circles, all of it remained hidden. But now, it was time to use it. Quietly, she began reaching out to her contacts. Deals were discussed. Partnerships formed. She made investments, not in her name, but in trusts and companies she controlled silently. Piece by piece, she built her own empire, right under her in-laws' noses. It started with whispers in the business world. One of the family's biggest contracts fell through. A loyal investor suddenly pulled out. A major deal collapsed without warning. Confusion spread across the family's empire like wildfire. "Why are our partners leaving us?" they asked. "Who's behind this?" But Sarah said nothing. She simply watched from her corner seat, silent as ever. What they didn't know, it was her. Every deal lost was one she had quietly secured for herself. It all came crashing down at the family's annual board meeting. For decades, the empire had been under their control. But when the papers were revealed, gasps echoed across the room. The majority shareholder was Sarah. The same woman they mocked. The same woman they called poor. The same bride they humiliated. Silence filled the hall. Faces turned pale. The empire they once boasted about now belonged to the bride they never respected. Sarah stood, calm and graceful. "You thought I was weak. You thought I had nothing. But you were wrong. Respect is worth more than gold. And you lost it the day you chose to humiliate me." Sarah didn't destroy them completely. That wasn't her style. Instead, she restructured the business, bringing fairness, respect, and dignity into its heart. Those who once mocked her were forced to work under her leadership. Some left in shame, some stayed humbled. And Adil? He realized too late that silence in the face of cruelty is betrayal too. Sarah rose, not just as their leader, but as a symbol of strength. And so, the poor bride walked away, owning the very empire that once rejected her. Her story isn't just about revenge. It's about dignity, about patience, about the quiet strength that can outlast arrogance. Because in the end, empires don't fall from storms outside. They fall from the hearts they choose to break.